everybody. Bob Ufer here in the chilly snake pit of Columbus, Ohio.
Elliott has the first down and more, and Elliott's going to have a touchdown.
Carl, watch out! Blake Carl, blazing speed. Can he get there? No, but he's down at the Ohio State 11.
Samuel cuts it back. Ohio State wins.
Stroud in trouble, and Stroud is sacked again.
There's nothing quite like the game.
Michigan versus Ohio State, the game of the day, the game of the year, the game of the decade. Call it what you will.
This is The Rivalry, sponsored by Elevated Integrity Construction.
Welcome to the Rivalry Podcast. It's Jace and JP, your garbage-free sports podcast focused only on the Michigan and Ohio State college football rivalry. Make sure you follow us at RivalPod on Twitter or on Instagram at 1049 The River. Big thanks to Elevated Integrity Construction for sponsoring Season 4. Can't believe we're on Season 4. Season 4 of the Rivalry Podcast. They not only do construction, they do the design element as well. If you've got a home build, church build, go with integrity. ElevatedIntegrity.com. That's ElevatedIntegrity.com. Let's spin the wheel. Start off with a little wheel route. Josh, how you doing today? You good?
It's been a great football weekend.
Got a little mac and cheese?
I had a little mac and cheese. Can never be a bad Monday for that. We had Ohio State and Rutgers picking up some dubs this weekend.
Yeah.
Couldn't even shadow the fact the Browns lost. That's how happy I was.
We don't
with
have
those.
to talk about it. This is a happy
expected
place,
at
man.
this point.
Game to look forward to.
Easy.
The game.
Okay. I was thinking this week, but we can go the whole season.
Yeah. So share with our listener, singular, what's going on this weekend?
This weekend we've got a crazy awesome opportunity. We are going to be at the Penn State Ohio State game.
First road trip for the rivalry.
First road tripping with the rivalry. You can actually follow along with us on Twitter, obviously at RivalPod, but also we're going to be posting stuff on Instagram, on Facebook. Just search up 1049 The River on either of those and you can follow along. We're going to be rating some food places we stop at. You can see what our preferred road trip snacks are. The whole experience is going to be right there for you. I'm super excited.
Yeah, we want to make sure we understand not everybody can always make a road trip. And so this is an opportunity to bring you along with us as we get our first experience of a college football road trip as well. So again, on Twitter at RivalPod or on Insta at 1049 The River. Let's start with the team that had the bye week, shall we?
Yeah. What are your thoughts going into this week? Facing Michigan State. It's a rivalry game. I know you've got a lot of thoughts.
Every time Michigan plays Michigan State, it feels like I'm not able to watch the game. That's where I want to start.
Don't love that.
I don't know I think it was when did I get married? 2016, 2017. Let's say, I think it was 2016. Michigan was playing Michigan State, was at my now brother-in-law's house watching the game. And at halftime, I had to leave to go to my own wedding shower.
Tough.
And Michigan was in control, but it's still a rivalry game. It's still uncomfortable. Yeah. So I'm sitting there opening up gifts. I'm like, oh, a third crock pot. That's so exciting. And my brother-in-law, Miles, is sitting in the front row. Hi, Miles. Miles is sitting in the front row, and he's like giving me hand signals, like trying to communicate
that's how you know you married into the right family.
So at one point, I'm looking at him, and I mouth the words, "Is it over?" And he starts to nod, and then he puts up one finger and gets this confused look on his face. I'm going, my guy.
No,
what are you doing?
Absolutely not.
That was one. I think 2018, my wife and I were at an Airbnb in Canada with terrible internet. So I tried to watch the game on a questionable Russian website.
Those always end up well.
And the internet kept freezing. So it's the downpour game. Michigan's trying to throw the ball in the monsoon. It was just a bad experience all around. And then this week, because we are going to be at the Penn State game, I presume that I'm going to have to try to watch this game on my phone in the back roads of Ohio somewhere.
No other place to be.
So anyway, that's my experience with Michigan State. I hate this team. I hate Michigan State with every fiber of my being. I don't know if you've heard, but Mel Tucker is signed to a 10-year.
Have we mentioned that on here before?
$95 million contract.
Have we mentioned that on here?
Here's the deal. Michigan State is not a good football team. There's a reality when you come to a rivalry game, right? Where you throw out all the records.
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
Both teams, Harbaugh said this in his press conference on Monday. Both teams want to win this game so dang bad. Michigan State, though, you can't completely throw out the record. They have beaten one Power 5 team, and it was Wisconsin on whatever in the world that double overtime game was.
And Wisconsin's
not great.
Yeah,
either.
they're not great.
So here I was doing a little bit of looking back through the schedule this week. So Michigan obviously beat Penn State 41-17 a couple weeks ago.
Are you going to repeat what you tweeted? Oh my gosh.
Penn State beat Minnesota 45-17. And then Minnesota beat Michigan State earlier this year 34-7. Michigan may put 100 points on this team.
Stop it.
Michigan may beat them by 100.
There's just no way. I know wishful thinking.
They're not good. They are
not putting 100 up.
Listen,
no chance.
The only place Tuck is coming is the Quick Lane Bowl if he's lucky. All right.
Hey.
That's the only place. Yeah, Michigan is too much. Like, joking aside, Michigan is too much for them. Michigan State's defense is bad. Blake Corum and Donovan Edwards should have themselves a day. JJ McCarthy, I mean, he's going to have open receivers, but I think much like we've seen the last couple of weeks, he's not going to need to throw the ball a ton because you should be able to just run the ball right down their throat over and over and over again. I don't think they can stop it. On the offensive side, for Michigan State, Peyton Thorne is okay. Like, he's a worse Sean Clifford, and they've got Jaden Reed, and that's it. I know Coleman has got a few catches, but I don't see Michigan State's offensive line holding up to the Michigan pass rush. I can't see a way for Michigan State to win this football game.
Yeah, for sure.
What do you think as the Buckeye fan?
Well, I'll finish this off. What is your prediction for the game?
51-20. 51-20.
That's a lot of points for a real bad Michigan State team.
You know, there's a Michigan coach named Mike Hart who once said, you know, sometimes when you're playing basketball with your little brother, you let him get the lead, then you just come back and take it back. Michigan's record has also not been great since he made that comment, but that's beside the point.
I just don't like that attitude. I think
I'm here for it, dog.
It's the same thing that you said. It's the past 2 seasons, Michigan State has beat Michigan. They just don't have it this year.
2020 was not even a real football season.
Stop.
2020 was not a real football season. Last year, you know why Michigan State won that game? Because they had a guy who's going off for the Seattle Seahawks right now named Kenneth Walker. That's the only thing they had.
They don't have the talent.
They don't have the talent at all.
But it goes to show just the difference that when these teams match up, it's like you said, the intensity is going to be there until Michigan takes the ball on offense and shoves it down their throat and scores a touchdown with Blake Corum, and it just completely demoralizes Michigan State.
Let's go ahead. Yeah.
I've got a finale here of 45-7. I
like that. See, you're dogging on me for talking about how bad they are. You picked the same thing I did.
I'm saying because you're giving Michigan State 20 points, and I just think there is just no chance that they score 20.
I'm factoring in some garbage time scores.
See, that touchdown is a garbage time touchdown in my mind. I think it is going to be a very boring game.
Let's hope so.
I think Michigan is going to go down. Corum is going to have, I'm going to say over $150. Easy.
I think that's good.
Easy. I'm going to say 3-4 touchdowns. And McCarthy, just don't turn the ball over.
Yeah, that's exactly
literally it. He's not going to have to because he's not going to throw, but the little few times that you might need to convert a third down, just don't risk it. You're not going to need to. It's going to be a quick game. I think Michigan State will get a garbage touchdown, maybe early fourth quarter, late third quarter, and that'll be about it. They don't have it.
Well, and you know that Michigan's coming into this game too. They know what happened last year. Mm-hmm. There is no doubt. There's no doubt that Michigan was a better football team last year.
Yeah, and they're coming off a bye week. They've had 2 weeks to rest up. They've had 2 weeks to prep.
You're going to get to exercise a lot of demons this weekend.
Yeah.
And it's a night game. Like,
McNamara's going to get to touch the field again, which will be nice for him.
Yeah, is that confirmed that he's suiting?
I don't know. I'm just assuming even with his injury, he can still go out there and dominate. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, so that's the hope. Again, if you're following us on Twitter at RivalPod or on Instagram 1049 The River, give a score prediction for the Michigan State game. We'll get to Ohio State, Penn State as well. You've got a chance to let us buy you lunch, okay? It doesn't have to be a good pick. It just has to be some sort of prediction.
Ours obviously aren't.
No. Ours were good this week.
It's not just a game, it's the game. You're listening to The Rivalry.
Let's talk about Ohio State.
Okay. I've got a lot of thoughts on this.
On the Iowa game or on the I mean, let's start with Iowa. Let's start there.
On the Iowa game.
Iowa was a really difficult game for me to nail down. So let's hear your thoughts first, and I'll kind of jump along here.
We talked about it a little bit on the drive home. It feels spoiled to say this, but I did not walk away from that game at first feeling great. And I think a little bit of that is just being spoiled because, and there's justification for it. The final score is 54-10.
It's not close.
Any other week, you're completely fine with that. You're like, that's a blowout. Why would you walk away from that feeling a little bit gross and all that? I wrote down some key drives that I think are noticeable for Ohio State. There were 5 drives where they were either at the 50 or in Iowa territory to start the drive. And this is what they did with that field position. 4 plays, 1 yard from Iowa's 32, field goal. 4 plays, 4 yards from Iowa 31, field goal. 5 plays, 17 yards from the Iowa 30, field goal. 8 plays, 24 yards from the Iowa 32, a field goal. 3 plays, 9 yards from the 50 for a punt. To me,
I appreciate this very much.
I look at the score of 54-10, but I'm thinking long term. I'm looking at that and I'm going, that was a top 10 defense. I'm not taking anything away from Iowa.
It was a very good defense.
At the end of the day, and I'm of the mindset now, at the end of the day, there was only 1 defensive touchdown for Ohio State that was scored. You still scored 40-plus points against a top 10 defense where you had 4 drives where you ended up with a field goal from basically the 32 or less. And I feel good about that, but thinking against other teams, you can't have those opportunities. You can't have 5 drives that start at the 50 or 4 of those 5 starting at the 32 or less and walking away with 3 points. To me, it's unacceptable from an offensive standpoint to go in there. I'm not saying you have to convert every single one to a touchdown. I need to see at least 2 or 3 of those 5 turn into a touchdown, if anything.
Well, this is the struggle that Michigan has been knocked on, and rightfully so, over even during the... less so the Iowa game, but I think especially the Penn State game where they would get down really close. Did it matter at the end of the day? Much like your game?
Yeah.
No, it didn't matter yet.
When you play the good teams, that's the stuff that's going to stand out. And I do think this was one of those games. You can talk all you want about how Iowa's offense is terrible. It absolutely is the worst thing.
6 turnovers.
I felt sick to my stomach having to watch them throw a football around for however long we were even at the game. But I was still impressed with Ohio State's defense. Iowa's nothing to write home about. But you still came in, you had 6 turnovers and 5 sacks on the day. Yeah. Your defense came out to play.
You did the things that you were supposed to do on the defensive side of the football. You did. Now, it also helped that the opening pass from Spencer Petras was, I've looked at the replay a dozen times. I do not know who he's throwing the ball to besides Ohio State.
I feel like I know where he was going, but it was
see
just
where you were going with that.
It was such a bad read.
It's like a professor in college, like a freshman level class, right? Where you give a presentation, and the professor just kind of leans back a little bit and goes, "I see what you were trying to do here. It's still an F."
I heard that a lot.
It's still an F. Absolutely terrible. I think that's a really fair assessment of this game because, again, we talked about Michigan, Ohio State fans are never satisfied. Yeah. It's what makes each opponent. It's why I hate Ohio State fans. It's why you hate Michigan fans. And it's why I hate Michigan fans too sometimes.
Well, and it shows just how good this Ohio State team is.
It does.
That walking out of this, I'm going, we scored 50 points, but why did we not score 90? Like, the opportunity was there, and that is what's frustrating.
You can cherry pick stats, and of course, both fan bases on Twitter were cherry picking stats to prove why one team is trash, why one isn't. This is why this Ohio State Iowa game was so confusing to me. Here's the passing and rushing stats for this game. Ohio State threw for about 300 yards on that defense. They ran for 66. Which one of those is true? Both of them. What do you make of that? I don't know. They've got to play a full game. They've got to play a full game, and it's got to start Saturday in Happy Valley.
Yep.
What are you thinking going into this Penn State game? Because I've got a lot of thoughts on this too.
It's weird because I feel like every other week we're having this conversation where we're looking at the schedule and saying this is the biggest game Ohio State has had this year. It started with Notre Dame. We all looked at that and thought this will tell us what we need to know about this team. And now we see what Notre Dame is. We said it against Wisconsin. This is going to be the first test. And then we saw Wisconsin is in fact trash.
But Penn State has at least come through. I mean, this is going to be game 8 for them. We at least know what to expect.
They are at least.
We know who they are. They are who we thought they were.
But see, I am worried. I'm worried that it's going to be the same conversation because Penn State has played nobody outside of Michigan. There is no opponent on their schedule that I look at and go, that is an opponent that I respect, that I think if Ohio State played, they wouldn't blow them out by 56 plus.
The Ohio Bobcats.
Stop it.
Okay.
I don't think they
That's fair.
I think they maybe had one opponent that was over 500. I mean, they've played nobody. And so it's one of those things where I'm afraid to read too much into it, but I don't want to not read into it a little bit, where I look at their record and I go, look what happens when they play Michigan. They get dominated from the start of the whistle to the end of the game. They were completely outmatched on every single aspect of that game. Even when they were leading,
inexplicably.
Even when they were leading, I don't think a single person that wasn't wearing a Nittany Lion uniform or shirt, and probably even them, looked at that game and thought, we are playing better than this team. Yeah. And so I just think going into this game, obviously it's on the road, is always going to be a tough place to play, even if it's not a night game. I think Ohio State, the key is going to be taking out that crowd early. They've got to go down and get a couple scores early. Yeah. I hope. I've been getting a little nervous with CJ lately. He's had an interception in each of his last 4 games. This last game when he was struggling against Iowa, you saw some of that frustration. He had the fumble early on that was returned for a touchdown. He had we thought driving away, he had 2 or 3 interceptions.
Apparently he only had 1.
Apparently he only had 1. I still feel like we saw at least another one. Yeah. But whatever. He's had an interception the past 4 games.
Like his stats are still good, he's
playing well.
He did not look. It's weird to say that, right? Like there were periods. I'll say that there were periods and pockets of time where he didn't look sharp. You can get away from that when Spencer Petras is across from you.
When he immediately turns it over.
When Sean Clifford or JJ McCarthy is, can you still get away with that?
And that's the thing that worries me. I still think, for me at least, I'm so curious to see how the defense comes out and plays in this game. I think the offense is going to go out there and give you points. Even if CJ struggles a little bit and they're not as high scoring as they are, I'm not expecting a 54-10 game by any means. I have the final at 38-17, and that felt a little bit too generous for Ohio State. I do feel like because it's an away game, because they're going to be fighting that environment, I do think it's going to be a little bit closer than that, actually. I'm hopefully, that was more of an optimistic view.
That's good. No, that's fine.
But
that's
I'm hopeful that this defense comes in, and this is the game that I want to watch because Penn State's offense isn't anything. I mean, they're not great, but they're not bad. They're not bad. They are the best.
Mark that one down.
They are the best offense Ohio State has played this entire year.
I really hope we get to come back to you telling us how Penn State's offense is trash. I really want us to come back to that next week. I didn't
say they were trash. They're not
You
elite.
said they're not anything.
Yeah, I mean, they're not. Would you say that Penn State's offense is good? Or is it just capable? Because I'm
taking
saying
a nice long sip of tea there.
I'm saying that they are the best offense Ohio State has played this year.
Yeah, I mean, probably.
Yeah, and so I'm curious to see how Ohio State's defense comes out and actually performs against a capable offensive opponent.
Penn State had about 500 yards of offense on Minnesota. And let's not pretend Minnesota is great, but Minnesota's at least a semi-decent team.
Offensively.
This is going to be the first, I know you went to Michigan State. This is the first true road test for Stroud this year.
Yeah.
So really, it's the first true road test since the Michigan game. Like the Rose Bowl is a neutral site. I know it's out wet. Go with me on this, okay? It's the first true road test since that U of M game. I am really interested, like you, to see how he plays. I think he will be fine.
Yeah.
But I'm with you. I'm mostly interested in how that defense plays against a competent offense. Because again, Nick Singleton is a big deal. Parker Washington's a big deal. Sean Clifford is going to have to be dialed in.
He's an above average quarterback for the Big Ten.
He's a little bit Jekyll and Hyde, but I would use the term serviceable. He's not in style, but he's a Shea Patterson type of quarterback.
Kate McNamara type quarterback, because that's what I think.
Honestly, I think that's fair. He's going to manage the game. He doesn't make a ton of mistakes. That's I was gonna say Shea Patterson, but that's even better. It's probably a Kate McNamara type. That Penn State defense too, though, Joey Porter and Jair Brown, they're good players.
Yeah.
So Ohio State's going to have to be able to run the football. And as we saw against Iowa, they struggled to do that this past weekend. This was brought to my attention. In 2016, Penn State got drubbed by Michigan 49-10. And then went on to beat Ohio State, who was ranked number 2 in the country in Happy Valley later that year. Penn State actually won the Big Ten that year.
What year was this? Like
2016. 2016.
Yeah. 6
was
years
that Trace
ago, Jason.
McSorley? Would he have been there then?
Yes. 2016, that was 6 years ago.
But what I'm saying, though, is that it's interesting the way that history can tend to repeat itself, the way that they got beat up by Michigan, but now have a chance to still preserve their season, but they've got to get a mega task done. I think Penn State is coming in to preserve their season, and I think Penn State's going to get it done.
Stop it.
This is we've gone, my guy, we have gone chalk.
No.
We have gone chalk this entire season. We've both picked Ohio State. We both picked Michigan. Penn State, 38-37.
30, okay.
38-30.
Okay.
Because
horribly wrong.
Because I think Ohio State will still score, but I think Penn State's offense is going to be a problem spot for this defense. They haven't been tested yet. And we saw them, look at how they played against Toledo, a Toledo team that had literally one playmaker, and it was the quarterback. And he carved up that secondary. I think Penn State's going to get this done. This is my stupid genius pick of the week.
It's stupid, all right. I just don't.
They are 15-point dogs.
I'm going to be real sad. I'm going to be real sad if they end up losing and I have to come back here to this podcast. But man,
it's kind of a win-win for me because either I go, yeah, that was off, or I go, man, did I tell you what?
You have to deal with the road trip back if that ends up being wrong, and I can't wait.
How much is an Uber from State College to Columbus, Ohio? Because it might be worth looking into. Again, you can pick, your predictions don't have to be good. Let me reiterate that on Twitter at RivalPod, on Instagram 1049 The River. Rutgers to the Rose Bowl. We'd be remiss not talking about the Scarlet Knights.
There was a lot of hate and a lot of shade being thrown last week. Didn't appreciate it in front of my guy Mike Teal's jersey of all things.
This is what happens when you're not here, man. I can't control what Mitchell does.
I can't help it. I couldn't help it. Rutgers to the Rose Bowl. I think it just needs to be changed to Rutgers to the bowl.
Rutgers to literally
whether
any
it's the
bowl.
Toilet Bowl, anything,
anywhere. They got it done against Indiana.
They got it done against Indiana on a pick six at the very end. They played well. Freshman running back looked good. Sam Brown. This is how you know that Rutgers is in a bad spot. When our running back that's a true freshman comes in and has over 100 yards, 89 of which were after contact. And everybody is freaking out thinking, whoa, we have a good player. He's going to transfer. That is all I've seen ever since is everybody saying, how can we protect him?
We got to keep
what
him
NIL
around.
deals can we send him?
You know what would help?
It's just hilarious.
Making a bowl game. Making a bowl game would help.
Helping him to not get destroyed to where he has to have 89 yards after contact. But yeah, they're sitting at 4-3. Yeah. 1 win away from matching their season total last year.
2 wins away from a bowl game.
2 wins away from a bowl game.
Now you still play Michigan and Penn State. We know how that's going to go.
I don't even consider those a chance.
You've got Minnesota, Michigan State, and Maryland.
Those are the 3 that I have crossed off. Minnesota at Minnesota this week at 2:30 prime time.
If a game kicks off at 2:30, you know you're down bad.
Nobody will be there.
If
Absolutely
it's a 2:30,
nobody.
You look on ESPN, it goes like, hey, tickets as low as this amount. I think they pay you to go to this game.
I'd be more than happy.
We will give you $30 to sit through this football game.
Sign me up.
My gosh.
Look, I will say this. Currently, I'm at 2.5 Shianos. 2.5
We're getting to a bowl game.
2.5 Shianos for a bowl game, and I'll tell you why.
Yeah, please do.
Rutgers.
Boy, I thought I was making dumb picks today.
After the Nebraska game, which was garbage. I could take up an entire podcast talking about how stupid that was.
Bonus content.
You could just follow back at the Rival Pod on Twitter and you'll see my angry tweets from the night. They got rid of Sean Gleason, the offensive coordinator, and they looked good against Indiana. And with what offensive talent you have, Rutgers defense is still good. And I think when you look at Minnesota, you look at Maryland, the way to beat them is with your defense. And I think Rutgers has a shot in and of that aspect of the game. If they can go in, they can get a couple turnovers. I don't think Maryland, because I think
it depends on if Talia is going to play.
Yeah,
depends on how healthy
100%. And I think when it comes to Minnesota, Tanner Morgan didn't play against Penn State, which I also think would have completely changed the aspect of that game as well. they still got a star running back. They're still a good offensive team without him.
I just don't see Rutgers slowing down Ibrahim. He's just so good.
I think
He's
there's
so
a chance.
good.
I don't know if I'm fully sold, but I do think Michigan State is a 50-50. I think that could be the fifth win.
Listen, you'll never see me be a bigger Rutgers fan than the Michigan State game.
I love
you
it.
Just
Welcome.
Won't.
You need to borrow this. I've got you.
No, I'm.
But I think Maryland or Minnesota.
I've got stuff to be doing.
I think if the bowl game is on the line, I think Shiano can get the boys up and ready to play, and I'm excited. I don't think it's going to happen, but I'm not letting me kill my own vibe. I'm here. I'm here.
I'll give you that.
Keep chopping.
You are self-aware, if nothing else. Which, by the way, the Iowa game was fantastic because Iowa fans are nothing if not self-aware.
Oh, amazing!
I saw walking in, we saw a punting is winning shirt, and one that looked like it was homemade that said offensive yardage is overrated. And let me just say, they live by those standards.
100%.
They live by those standards.
100%.
What is your stupid genius upset pick of the week, my friend? Because you've already heard mine.
You're not going with another one?
No. My guy, I'm picking Penn State over Ohio State. That is my pick of the week, okay? And I believe that in my heart of hearts. But
mine's
that's probably
just as crazy. I've got number 19 Kentucky over number 3 Tennessee at Tennessee. It's happening. It's happening. It's happening.
Never.
It is 100% happening.
Kentucky is garbage. Kentucky is terrible.
Okay.
Oh my gosh.
Okay.
Wow.
Okay.
Anyway, if you survived that, way to go. Please subscribe. Please subscribe and follow us. Don't leave us. Enjoy the games.
The Rivalry is a production of River Radio Ministries. Want live updates from the show? Follow us on Twitter at RivalPod for live tweets, score predictions, contests, and more. And make sure to follow us wherever you're listening now for new episodes every Wednesday. And if you like what you're hearing, tell a friend so they can listen too.